All right, so recently I read the book Principles by Ray Dalio, a very, very good book, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think there's a lot of important things that came out of it. Now, I've a handful of things I wanted to bring up, basically all of it just off the top of my head. The most important thing that I took from the book was this quote: "An accurate understanding of reality is essential to getting a good outcome." And this is something that it really hits home, especially because there's a lot of prominent examples of this recently. I mean, the most prominent example of this recently that I can think of is the Canada-US tariff issue. And Americans probably don't get it because Canadians are... long story short here, Canadians were, and to some degree still are, completely freaking out over this tariff thing. And the reason they're freaking out is because they know, well, at least people know in the back of their minds, that America is way more powerful and they can easily have their way with us if they want, but too many Canadians have this idea that we're one and of the same. And the reason that I say that is, over Christmas and stuff, I could probably think of 4, 5, 6 people, family members, that this is how they were talking. It's like, oh, well, the Americans put the tariffs in, we'll put the tariffs in, and it'll be just as bad for them. And it's like, no. And the reason I bring this up is these people do not have an accurate understanding of reality. Reality is the US is way more powerful than Canada is, and we have way more to lose than they do. Right? And how do I know this? Well, number one, just the hard data. Look at GDP, like all that kind of stuff. But an anecdotal way that we know that these people are wrong, that think that, oh, well, we'll just put the tariffs back on the States and everything will be fine. It's like, no, that's not the case. And we know that because Americans were not freaking out about, at least anywhere close to the degree that Canadians were, about the possibility of tariffs being put on the States. Right? This is just a basic fact. And the other way we know that is that if we had as much power as they did, if we had as much room to negotiate as they did, we could have easily said a month before Trump took office, we are going to impose tariffs on you before you take office for 2, 3, 4 weeks, unless you agree to not impose tariffs on us. That is what, if we truly had room to negotiate when it came to that situation, that's what we would have done. That's what an intelligent person would have did. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that because one of two reasons, if not both reasons. Number one, people were too partisan politically. And the other reason being, we don't have room to negotiate. So that's a perfect example, a perfect modern day example of people not having an accurate understanding of reality, and thus we're not going to end up with a good outcome. And people think we're out of the woods on this, which we're not. We're not out of the woods. We got a 30-day break, but we're definitely not out of the woods in that. Another good example of this is inflation, right? I mean, and I say that because virtually everybody, if you went out on the streets and asked people, how do you fix inflation? What percentage of people are going to be like, yeah, I really don't know enough to talk on that subject? The vast majority of people are not going to say that. But when you look at reality is 99.99% of people don't even know how money is created. Like the most basic of basic things that you would need to understand when it comes to the concept of inflation, people don't know. Right? People don't know. So again, the reason why the cost of living is a massive issue for people these days, the reason that that's such a big issue is because people don't have an accurate understanding of reality. Because they don't understand economics, they don't understand how money is created, they don't understand anything when it comes to finance. So that's another perfect example of that. If you want to get a good outcome, you have to understand reality. And a good way of summing it up is too many people these days, their views of things, their views of the world, their views of concepts are how they want them to be as opposed to how they actually are. And that's a massive issue that exists in society these days. So some other concepts that he brought up here is probably the second most important thing that he brought up, just off the top of my head, was when it came to their decision-making process at Bridgewater, which is the hedge fund that he started, the biggest one in the world, when it came to their decision-making process, it was fairly open. Like, it was pretty open. It wasn't one or two or some, board of people just make a decision and that's that. It wasn't that oh, we just vote, right? Because I think voting is horrible. That's one of the big lies that people are told, that voting is such a great way of running society. But how exactly their process works, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going off the top of my head here. But what I took away was, when it came to decision-making processes, the people that had the best track record at making the right decisions were the ones that got the most input. And frankly, I don't think we have to dig into the weeds to, go over the exact process. That's how they made decisions. And that's how society should be making decisions. And this is one of the other huge problems that exists out there nowadays when it comes to business, people's personal lives, or even politics, is that we have people making decisions that have a horrible track record. Like, just a horrible track record. And I mean, we can look back to, what went on in 2020, 21, 2022. The people that made the big decisions were wrong about everything, but we kept letting them make the decisions. The people that manage, the financial aspect of society, they presided over 40, 50-year high inflation. They're still the ones making the decisions. Like, the list goes on and on and on. So this is this is the main reason why, the two main reasons why the society and people's personal lives and businesses, this is why they fail. This is why, and a fail may not be the best words, but why we get mediocre results. And a lot of people are okay. People say, well, if it's such a bad way of doing things, why do we do it? Because most people are okay with mediocre results. They'll still complain about it, but at the end of the day, you're okay with it, right? Like, if you're going to complain about inflation, but you refuse to learn economics, at the end of the day, you don't care. Like, you really don't. That's just a prime example. If you claim to care about this issue or that issue, but yet you just live in your echo chamber and you only get one side of the debate and you just take their word for it like most people do, you don't care. So other things, they're very open and transparent, like very open and transparent. Like, they even recorded like all of their meetings, and I don't know if they were publicly available, but at the very least they were available to like everybody within the business, which I think is also, I can see there probably is some times where maybe that isn't the best idea, but at the end of the day, I think that is the best idea, because personally, if I was able to listen to the meetings of at the business I work at, if I was able to listen to the meetings of the people at the top and hear what they're saying, that almost certainly would help me. Like, I would be absolutely shocked if that didn't help my performance. So I think that's a really good idea. More dialogue is a good thing. This is another thing that holds society back a lot, is that people complain about all these issues, but then whenever they're brought up, they immediately shut things down. Like, anything political, like, you're out with people and people just want to have their emotional outbursts and leave it at that. I mean, the whole tariff thing, again, that's another prime example of that. People just want to have their childlike emotional outbursts, and whenever you bring the conversation to reality and logic, they shut it down, right? So clear structure and expectations. This is another thing too that I don't know why people out there nowadays are so unclear in what they want. Like be as clear as you possibly can, right? Be as clear as you possibly can. They had a very long-term vision as well. And then the last thing is, problems are signs you need to change something. This is another thing that people struggle with a lot, is that they have these problems, but they refuse to change anything. Let's just keep doing the same thing over and over again and hope for a different result. That's the unofficial definition of insanity. So when you have a problem, like, problems are in a lot of ways a good thing, because it gives you an opportunity to improve. It's a sign that's like, hey, this is something that's not working. You need to change. So anyway, I'm going to keep the video fairly short and sweet. Like I said, I'm just going off the top of my head here. I don't want to ramble for too long. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more.